Hi, everyone. I'm Jason, and this is my colleague Sarah, and this is the Posture Podcast. Posture is a go to market and competitive analysis company. And so we work with our clients to help them better understand their market landscape and respond with better product marketing and go to market. I'm kind of excited about today's topic because I love to present. It's been in my blood. I love it. My father was a pastor. So every morning or every Sunday morning, I saw him get up and I decided to emulate that for the rest of my life, just without never mind. So we don't, that's fine. The point is, what makes this topic exciting is we're going to talk about presentations and we're going to talk about communicating to stakeholders. So we have a bunch of tips and tricks. We have been going in the direction of go to market and the science behind product marketing. Today, we're going towards the storytelling and the
Yes.
tips and tricks behind how to do that effectively. Colleague Sarah,
Yes.
we often get
Listen.
we often get great questions from our friends and clients and happy listeners. Do we have any questions in our Make It Make Sense inbox?
We do. And we have one that fits perfectly, per usual.
Per usual, we're very good at that. We get so many. We get so money.
Um, that too. That too.
It's gonna be a long. It's gonna be a long one, folks. I keep on saying false cognates. Anyways,
Okay,
what's that
question.
question?
I'm a product manager and I often have to present our roadmap and product plans to the business. Even when the content isn't very technical, I feel like I'm always providing too much or not enough. What is the right balance? How can I communicate what really matters in a way that actually keeps stakeholders engaged?
That is actually a really great question and a tough one, especially in a world in which attention spans are shrinking ever so slightly. Um, it's funny because we think about it a couple of different ways. And, the first one I would just start off by saying is social media is, in fact, not your enemy. I mean, it seems a little bit weird. You're going to do a TikTok or a short about your long term roadmap. Maybe that doesn't quite work. But if you're thinking about ways to engage people around particular ideas, going down that social media route is not a horrible idea. You can easily take a quick video on your phone explaining the new feature or talking about the new market or something they should know about the market or talking about a particular segment and circulate that. Do that on Fridays. Make it Factoid Friday on your social media situation.
Ooh,
You
that's a
could
good
post it
idea.
you could post it, but more importantly, put it on your company SharePoint or email it to everybody. So that's thing one. You don't have to give all the information all at once. You could just talk about a particular feature and do it in quick clips. Maybe add some dancing in there, or perhaps a puppy or a kitten. Um, that's that stuff always plays well. Hysterical. Actually, I would give you this challenge. The next time you write a slide, use only 10 words. It's the 10-word challenge to see if you can, communicate an entire idea. You have to choose those words very quickly. But I say that because I think the main thing that I try and think about whenever I do a presentation or put together a deck is to think actually about what its purpose is. And I don't just mean what you're trying to communicate. You obviously want to write something. You have a presentation about something. The purpose is to communicate that. But I'm talking specifically about the asset. What is it that you're going to use that asset for? Because there's actually two different types of assets you can create on a PowerPoint or slides or something like that. You can create a deck, which you're going to use to present, or you could create a doc, which you're going to
Mm.
use to give people lots of reading material. And the difference between those two things is relatively simple. A deck has fewer than 20 words per slide. Anything else, they've stopped listening to you. Some people do that whole route of like just put a picture up, like a wall or something, something that's going to in some way kind of be a big metaphor for what it is you're talking about. That works great if you're very compelling storyteller and you never need visual cues like numbers on the slide to remember what those numbers are. But the point is, a deck has very few words on it and is really meant to reinforce a couple of the key points that you're trying to talk about. A
Now,
doc, yes,
does
Sarah.
the title count?
Yeah, absolutely. The title counts. So if you have a 20-word title, first of all, it is absolutely a miserable slide. But you have to count, all 20 words go into that. All 20 words go into that. I hard and fast. If you have a chart, it's just the title, the chart, maybe a call out or two. I mean, that's it.
It'd be
Like,
25 words.
no, not 25. No, no. We've had this discussion, Sarah. We, you know, you know the answer to this question, and the font should not be smaller than 16. But the point is, like, if you want people to see you and listen to you, you can't have them reading at the same time, or they will miss what it is you're telling them, and they'll
Yeah.
just sit there focused on the slide. That's not a good thing. Also, not particularly helpful is taking that same deck and then circulating it either before as a pre-read or as a reminder, capstone afterwards. People will look at those slides and they'll have no idea what they mean. And so that's the difference between a deck and a doc. A doc, you could probably get away with doing a white paper on in Word docs, or in a Word doc or something like that. Just, lots of charts, I guess. But a doc has more than 20 words. You are putting all of those words on there so that people can be self-guiding. They don't need to listen to you. They can understand the main points of the chart or the diagram or whatever it is that you're putting on that slide. That you send ahead as a pre-read. That you send afterwards as homework or as a reminder, because people will go back. They will not remember the diagram, and they certainly aren't going to remember the way in which you describe the diagram. So you got to do both things. You got to call out the diagram, tell them why it's important, and explain to them what they should be looking at. And that's a doc. Neither the twain shall meet. So, my dear friend, curious in Cincinnati, I tried to come up with curious in Columbus, both in Ohio. So I did that for you guys, the Ohioans. Curious in Columbus. It's different strokes for different folks. It's the same strokes for the same folks. You are using those two different assets in very different ways. If you have to write out a very complicated roadmap, expect them to study it, not to understand it. In the presentation about the roadmap, you should be talking about epics and themes and objectives and maybe OKRs or those kinds of things, the big picture stuff. Or really prompting discussion about what features and benefits are the most important for the market. See what I did there? And then follow up with the product's actual plans or your actual messaging sheet. So deck, use it to facilitate conversation. If, like me, you cannot remember statistical numbers, make sure every one of those statistical numbers is on the slide. So you can look to the side and say, if you'll look at blah, blah, prompt your own memory. But a doc is something that you're going to expect people to be studying, to have as a self-guided reference or a long-term asset that someone can dust off in 30 years and say, oh, that's what the roadmap was? It's how different we became. So that's my answer to that. Think about them as two different assets, not one asset that's got to be awesome if they do both things. It will happen.
Nice. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to whoever submitted that. If you want to send a question into the Make It Make Sense inbox, send it to info@posture.consulting. And who knows, your question might be featured here, but in a future podcast, because a different question was featured here. Speaking of featured, one of my favorite things, Sarah, is feeling really, really shady about marketing practices, and I know that you're particularly good at this. Every day we've started to do this marketing side-eye thing, and now every single morning you walk in, you've got like a bowl of Cheerios and you are ranting about marketing, and I'm like, maybe that's not the thing. Maybe we should do marketing. Hey, that's great.
We have to cut it. We definitely have to cut it. I definitely have plenty of side eye. So I have cut it to two examples. First of all,
Oh, good.
the marketing side eye.
Oh, dun 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 dun. Wah, wah, wah. So, what's your marketing side eye, Sarah?
Confusing messaging is this marketing side eye. And I think
Oh,
one of the best examples, probably well, both of these are pretty well known, but most recent is the Pepsi Live for Now ad campaign with Kendall Jenner, and she's in the middle of a photo shoot and
terrible.
comes out in with this to join this protest, all these people arguing with the police, and when she comes out, everybody stops. And she walks over to the police officer and hands him a Pepsi. And he takes it and and drinks it. And everybody stops, quiet. And then the whole crowd erupts in cheers, and she has led the way to world peace.
Wow. Wow.
Pepsi.
Pepsi. That's not overselling. It's
Yeah.
like a modern day, I want to buy the world a Coke.
Right? So this ad costs between $2 to $5 million to make, the production cost, right? The media space, which is the advertising space that they had to purchase across various channels, TV, radio, print, website, social media, was closer to $100 million that they wasted, right?
Wow.
And it was pulled, fun fact, after one day. One day, completely pulled, and they never showed it again. Of course, it was all over social media. You can find it on YouTube, Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad, whatever.
Yeah. Don't look for it right now. Look for it maybe after you're done watching this.
Yeah, later after this. But what was so wrong with the messaging and what confused people and bothered people so much was that it was this trivial product. It was a soda, and it elevated this product to a role that solved this this vague social problem. Like, it was tone deaf, zero product relevance, misaligned brand role. Yet it elevated the product beyond plausibility, and it asked the audience to emotionally invest without offering respect, clarity, or accountability. And it was offensive and just the wrong time. The wrong
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Very, very tone deaf. I think that's the thing that drives me crazy about it. And you
Yeah.
don't know what it is that you're supposed to be agreeing with. I mean, the police should drink Pepsi, I think, is probably a major piece of that message that I'm walking away with, which,
Right.
fine. Yes, they should. Yeah, I guess.
Also, the privilege too, like Kendall Jenner. Like,
Mm,
oh, let me just stop my photo shoot and just go solve this problem with that Pepsi.
world peace. All right.
More peace.
There you go. I
Pepsi.
love that. That's some good. I'd give that some side
So
eye.
marketing side eye. What?
Systemic.
My second example is farther in the past than the Pepsi commercial, which is the entire beginning ad campaign for PlayStation, or PlayStation 3. Their the baby.
The baby. Yes.
Baby. What was it? The baby. It was the This Is Living, Third Place. These are the titles of the ads. They were very abstract, nonsensical, no talking. If there was talking, it didn't say anything about the PlayStation, no features, no benefits, nothing about playing. The idea that they were trying to communicate was that playing on this console is an experience that you have to experience to know about. And that didn't come across.
No?
Didn't come across. It was weird. It was creepy. People made fun of it. And, it's now taught as an example of what not to do.
There you go.
You,
Yeah,
yeah, start an ad campaign,
I
which is
love that.
really interesting. So,
It's amazing. It's actually, yeah, baby dolly, like that communicates to me your children are being raised by video games, not like frivolity or like experience. You're like, you lock them up in the dark and give them a PlayStation 3. All of
yeah,
their parenting issues will take care of it. You
yeah,
know, what is that
yeah.
zombie game? Yeah, the rest of us, yeah, give them
Mhm.
that. We're good.
Right,
But you know, it's
right.
funny because if you think about it, like I'm not opposed to just straight up brand campaign. Like you see these a lot, like with pharmaceuticals. Either they're have a brand campaign in which people are like dancing in the streets and it's like light Vectia and like everybody's dancing and singing and you have no idea what it's doing. All you know is that it's bringing about emotions that they want to resonate with your brand and they
Mm.
do that. It sounds like that's not what I mean, if PlayStation really wanted terror and dystopian future to be associated with a PlayStation brand, they did a great job with that. But then you also have, I mean, this is partly law with pharmaceuticals, but then you'll have the question, the one in which it technically tells you the features and makes promises of the benefits. The benefits, 39% saw an increase in facial skin, you know, warning could cause,
And then a
and
minute
then,
of like just
right,
like these adverse side effects that are the
causes
worst possible ever.
ca- causes a condition known as hot dog fingers. Like what? May
There,
may
there,
may mean your arm sloughs off. Sloughs.
there was a runner up to this list, and I guess I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it because
Okay, yeah, yeah. More side eye,
so
please.
it was a video game. I think it was Godfather 3 or something, and when they released it, when you bought the game, you also got a pair of brass knuckles.
That's fantastic.
This was
That's
when the
fantastic.
whole it was at its height. The video games make people violent, make are turning kids violent, sort of thing,
Double
right?
down on it.
And right.
Double down. Yeah,
Also,
there you go.
in some states, it's illegal.
Brass
So
knuckles are?
they had to stop, and then they had to ask for them back.
Yeah, I'm sure they got a lot of them. A brass knuckle buyback. People
Here,
are like,
I'll
I
send
didn't
you
get any.
back my old brass
I
knuckle.
didn't, yeah, for $5,000. Wow. Wow. That is some shadiness, Sarah.
Yeah.
See, I'm telling you, maybe flexing that muscle every morning is not a bad thing. Just, you know, finish the cereal first because you get all frothed up
Shut it.
about it. It's like now I'm giving you side eye because of the cereal, not the marketing. Anyway,
First of all, I don't eat Cheerios. Okay.
okay, whatever. Yeah. Good. I got nothing for you on that one, but thank you for that moment.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Okay, which leads us, folks, to the topic of the day. And I wring my hands in joy and excitement because presentations and PowerPoints are some of my favorite things. Little known fact, I am known most widely for making great decks, and that for a good amount of time I freelanced. I went to work every day and then at night got paid for making PowerPoint presentations.
I believe it.
I had a good friend who actually made, he was a graphic designer and we were best friends in college and stuff. And we reconnected when I lived in San Francisco and he was like, I get design requests for PowerPoints and stuff like that. Do you want them? I was like, yeah, man, that's awesome. And he started like sending me huge volumes of like PowerPoint requests. And at some point I had to be like, wait, Ryan, what do you do for a living that you're getting all of these? And it turns out, I didn't track his career before that. It turns out that he did 3D graphics for large like conventions and stuff like that for Google and for Microsoft and shit like that. If it was a complicated like 3D motion graphic,
Hmm.
that and it was in the context of a presentation, that was his gig. If it's an animated ball on a slide, that's my gig. I'm the guy for you. So, but I don't do that anymore. I save the really great presentations for our clients. Posture consulting. Um, yes. So the topic of the day. That had nothing to do with what I just said. The topic of the day is um, how it is that you communicate the so what effectively. And I don't know if other people do this, but we talk about the so what a lot, Sarah. Everything is about the so what. And that is to mean, what are the major takeaways for the presentation or the analysis you're doing? And how do you make sure that it hits you over the head? Um, I can remember when not the same time frame, when I started my career, I had this opportunity where they increased my team, and suddenly I was doing MPS and CSAT and all these really, really cool quantitative surveys as part of my job. And so I was super excited about this because there's nothing like pouring through a giant spreadsheet full of numbers and trying to figure out what sample size and all that stuff means, what a quartile range. I don't know. Anyways, I was very excited about it. And so my first presentation about this massive survey that we put to field was to the president of the company. And she was going to be in DC. I was going to fly in to give this presentation in person. The entire executive team was going to be there. I was so excited. I was like taking old NPS surveys and the segmentation studies and then market analysis, and I was appending everything. So things became these like monolithic charts that was like, for people who are this age and did this, they answered that and they did that. It was analytical genius. It was inspired, Sarah. I was inspired. It was inspiring. I felt so good about myself. So I got down there. I had jokes. I had quippy things that had to do with analytics and NPS surveys and stuff. The room was laughing. They were dying. It was slide after slide with charts, and everything was amazing. And I sounded so smart. And the president kept on giving me compliments. So that's really interesting. Thanks so much. At the end, she stood up. I stood up. She shook my hand. She said, "That's one of the best presentations I've ever been in. I just don't know what the so what is." I was like, "What?" She was like, I just don't know if that mattered at all. But I had jokes. And she was like, but she's like, but I understand that. And I understand all the statistics. I was like, well, this is what I took from it. And she's like, but I didn't understand how this impacts the strategy at all. You got to tell me, so what? Why that
Wow,
matters.
how crushing.
I
would
stood
have
on
been
top, folks.
crushed.
I didn't let it take me down. I endeavored from that moment on. Now, I mean, my partner will even be like, "So what?" Like, don't. Oh, that's a trigger. So,
Well,
anyways,
real quick, fun fact, another fun fact. I don't know what to say, fun fact.
so
Anyway,
many fun facts
just
today.
so you know, when we first started working together, and then you would have me do a slide, and we would go over it, you would say, "So what?" And I would get so offended. I'd be like, "What do you mean, so what? It's on there."
Yeah,
I mean, so
that's right.
what? It's there. And then you'd be like,
It's
"So
so
what?"
obvious.
And I'd be like, so I'd have to break it down and then break it down again and then break it down again and then break it down again. And then at the end of that, you'd be like, "Okay, so there's your title." And I would be like, "Oh."
There's your title. That's so true. It's absolutely the case. There
Like I
was like
started
a
getting anxiety before and I would be like, "Feel free to change it. I am fully prepared for you to not put anything that I say on here."
it's like an exercise of
Then you had to
like
explain to me what exactly you were doing, and that this was a strategy and a process, and just how you thought about things, and there was an end goal, not just you questioning me or whatever, which was what it felt like at first. You were like, "So what? So
yeah,
what?"
yeah. It was personal, actually, in your case. It had nothing to do with strategy. I said that. I said that to make you feel good afterwards. No, I don't. When you're looking up Kendall Jenner later on, this shows you how hip I am. Later on, after this episode, feel free to also look up the 5 whys. This is something, because I think it's GM that did it. It could be Ford, but I always forget to look it up later on. I go sideways on my feed. And anyways, so the 5 whys are like, when you're talking about a process or a strategy, you ask, you know, why 5 times? We're going to do this. Why? Because we think it's this. Why? Because we think it's this. Why? If you do that 5 times, you get to the core of what the strategy should be, right? And so that we've kind of adopted to be the 5 so whats. When you're talking about an idea, you've got the strategy built out and you want to communicate it, be it a product roadmap, be it a messaging architecture, some kind of a readout on the NPS surveys, if you're lucky enough to be in charge of those. The so what's, 5 so whats, why, or so what, so what, so what. Then you really do get to the title of your slide. So the so what really is about the strategic implication of what you're trying to communicate. You've got all that science that you've been doing. You've got your competitive research done. You've got the budget worked out for the go to market. You have to do the storytelling of why this is important, and that's what your so what is all about. There's 3 kind of things initially you should think about. One is who actually needs this information. Do you need the information as the product marketer or as the competitive analysis person, or do your stakeholders need that information? And I want to be honest with you, there are many times in which I delete something I absolutely love and think is perfectly worded off of a slide because my audience does not need that information. I liked the information. I thought it was a wonderful conclusion and I love myself, and so I wanted to give it to the world, but they don't need it. So the first question is, who needs to know this? Make sure that your target audience is the right one for the information you're giving. You can have an audience with the product marketing team, with the sales team, and with the executive team all be talking about the same things, but the information should be different. The second question is, how does this affect them? Everyone in the room has a KPI. The president of that company, her KPI was about growing the company, market domination, and investor relations. That's what she cared about. The head of sales is about territory expansion and sales KPIs. The head of product marketing is about launching products and the KPIs that are going to go with go-to-market or pricing strategy, those kinds of things. They have something they're actively thinking about in their heads at the time they're listening to you. And that's the thing you need to be relating to. You don't talk to a salesperson about investor relations. They're thinking about closing deals. You tell them the information they need to know to close a deal. So what? It's all about what they're trying to achieve in the career of their, what is their job description? What is that bracket for them? How do they frame the world in which they're living? So what? So I know I'm talking to Sarah. I know that Sarah cares about cereal. I'm going to relate to her in terms of different types of cereal. That's just the way it is. That's her KPI. And then the last piece of the puzzle is, am I saying it enough to get it to stick? They used to say that when I was starting off my career, there was this thing called mail, and you'd send out letters and stuff like that. But they used to say that someone needs to hear an idea 7 times. I don't think this holds true anymore. I think it's actually far more than that because of social media. They actually now need a constant cadence of that information, but they need to hear it multiple times for it to stick. You have to keep on saying it. You can't say something once and then expect them to, catch that and walk away. I mean, you can't really let them hear it one time and then expect them to understand it. So the 3 things that you have to think about is who actually needs to know this specific information. The second one is, how does it affect the people that you're talking to? And lastly, am I saying enough to get it to stick? We joked around a lot about that, okay, all of these so what's becoming your slide. The 2 other rules that I always say about a deck is, one, that if a member of the executive team or someone else who magically got a hold of this brilliant deck of yours is flipping through the slides and only reading the titles of the slide, by the 9th or 20th or 30th slide, do they fully understand what it is you're trying to communicate? So that title is gold. Do not put, bookings, or don't put conversion rates. You know, make a statement about conversion rates, make a statement about bookings or the financial year projections, so that anyone flipping through that deck and only looking at the headlines gets the full picture. And if they get the full picture and they read into it, the second thing you need to have on that slide is the content that reinforces that, be it the charts, the quotes from the customers, a couple of logos for your partners, whatever it is. The slide title is your storyline. The contents of the slide is the next level of information. And the next level of information after that is subtitles, either underneath the main title at the bottom of the slide. So you have this flow of, this is the main point. These are the main points that communicate why the main point is the main point. And so therefore, this is what you're supposed to be thinking about. You can do that in a lot of different ways. I actually have two slides. One is from a doc, the other's from a deck. See if you can point out which one has more than 20 words. But I want to share them with you because I think they'll help.
Neither of them have neon rainbow colors, which I know it's disappointing.
It's because I like my stakeholders.
Or you don't like your stakeholders.
Okay. Yeah. So I have these two slides. And one of them is definitely a deck, and one of them is definitely a doc. See if you can guess which one has more than 20 words or which we're going at. But I wanted to share both of these as an example of the so what built out on a slide. The first thing, as I said, is the title. I always write titles in sentences. Make them complete thoughts. They don't have to have articles and kind of good sensical punctuation, stuff like that. I have the tendency to use semicolons a lot. But you want it to be something that you can read clearly. If there are numbers in the slide itself, elevate them to the top. So AI is a core product value proposition for whatever we were doing this project for. It's reinforced by broad access to their AI. Users purchase prepaid credits priced around the model being used. Again, this is for a different client. They have more context about what it is we're talking about. And someone in that company would be able to get this slide, pick it up off the floor, and understand what it's about because it's self-explanatory. We then have monetization symbols. We have signals. We have a chart of features and how much it costs, basically a paywall, their pricing plan. All of these pieces of information are like little assets that build towards that title. So you say, okay, wait a second. I want to know what the feature list is and how many AI credits. There's a table for that. Above the table is a complete thought about the table. Certain editing features are gated. Most tools are available to all user types. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that AI is a core value proposition for this particular class of products. And in order to reinforce that value proposition, they are making their products essentially free. They're giving broad access to people. They're really getting in there and using it. And then the rest of the points. And then you notice that we went really far, really trying to make a point, because this is an important topic. For each one of the columns that we've built out that reinforce that title, we then have an individual so what. So if you're focused on the center column, you go down, so what? Editing tools are is a consideration for new users, more incentive to subscribe. In other words, you've got these edited tools that are gated, and most tools are available. Other tools are available. And so therefore, this particular company that we're talking about believes that you can sell editing tools, and that is something that people will want to do. They want to buy those. Anyways, this conversation is not about AI. This is something that we would never dream of presenting. It's not something you can stand up in front of. I wouldn't even take one little chunk of this information and put it on a slide. Maybe I'd build a different visual around the title, which is not uncommon. Most of the time, we'll create an asset, a doc, and then from that, make a presentation. This one is more presentation style. I don't know if there's 20 words on this or not. This is very helpful for me because it has the most important numbers on it. If you do this as a deck, or you want to make it a little bit more robust, you definitely have to explain to users how to read the chart, like what the axes are. So, for example, range up to $50 billion on the x-axis, and on the y-axis, it goes across quarter by quarter, 23 to 25. The point here is the most important things that could possibly be about that chart that you want to communicate are: one, that title that's continuing the storyline; two, the subtitle that talks about total funding and is pointing to that chart; and then there's two call outs. Look at this one and look at that one. Series A, done by one company. Series B, made up this amount in this company. So that's my point. I show this to you because they're obviously very, very different in terms of the layout, but where they're not different is making sure that the so what is clear. Yeah, so, it kind of furthers the story. But when it comes to your storytelling piece of the puzzle, you want to make sure you're hitting on it in a lot of different ways. Sending out decks and docs, presenting. You can send out a single slide. We've done that in the past. We take a deck and we make it into individual assets, and then at a different cadence, release that slide so people got it. And it worked into the communication and when it was important for them to do so.
We've also taken a huge deck and then only pulled out slides relevant for specific teams, and then a different slides relevant for different teams, and then a different specific slides for the presentation version of this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think the last deck we did like that was 86 pages or something like that.
And then you wrote
100. Yeah, it was like, this is great, but write a white paper. Okay. That's it right there. Literally a doc. It's funny. I think I may have mentioned earlier the 10-word rule. I had a new boss and we were going to market in Korea. I don't know why we chose like the most competitive market in this particular to go into, but we did. And so we put a segmentation survey, we did competitive analysis. This was a huge bulk of work. It was like I was in college all over again. Several all-nighters putting this deck together. And it was 120 legit pages. It had a full thing in it. And my boss looked at it. He was like, write an executive summary with 10 words on it. I was like, I laughed. And he was like, no. And then
8 words, because the title is executive summary. So
that's right. 8 words. 8 words. No, I didn't put executive summary. I only had 10 words. You're not going to waste a word. It said my 10 words were don't go to Korea. Samsung will eat your lunch. It is what it is. Okay. So anyways, the so what. Sometimes our storytelling becomes nothing but storytelling, as evidenced by these last 2 stories. But the important thing when you're building out communication and assets for your stakeholders is you're really, really focused on asking yourself, so what? Making sure that they are hearing what you want them to hear. Ask yourself, so what, over and over and over again. Or have your colleague, Sarah, ask you, so what, over and over and over again. Always be thinking yes, until they look like they are giving you some serious side eye. Ask yourself those 3 questions. Is this information that they need? Is this really information for someone else? Who is it that they are, and what is it that they are worried most about? What's their job? What's their frame? What are their KPIs? How can you relate this information to them? All politics are local, related to them. And then lastly, are you saying enough times that they can get it? Keep that cadence going. Don't drop it after one touch point throughout the deck. Keep on hitting it, or don't drop it after one presentation. Set up a cadence in which you're really communicating these things out. And as we said earlier, get off social media. Do those camera selfies. People love that kind of stuff. Anyways, what's that?
Send your team TikToks.
Be like, I felt that this TikTok really related well to
I think that
our
could be like
strategy.
that could go wrong.
That's our segment. That's what we're doing. We're getting rid of marketing side eye, and we're doing TikToks that relate to strategy. It's going to literally be someone like a strategy TikTok. I don't like it. We're going back to marketing side eye.
I
Anyways,
love
so
my
that's what I
marketing
got,
style,
Sarah.
okay?
Yeah,
It's very cathartic.
it is very cathartic. Every day, do your side
Yeah,
eye.
thank you.
So
So if you want help pressure testing how your message lands, visit posture.consulting. And if you want to run your communication through our strategy lens, remember, come visit us and we will help you do that. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below telling us about any tips or tricks you use when you communicate with your stakeholders or teams or clients. We would really love to hear that. So,
yeah, awesome. Thank you, Sarah.
mhm.